declaration from the Senate of the Federal Republic. This is the NTA, and my name is Muhammad Kudu Abubakar. This Tuesday, the 20th of October, 2015. As you have heard much earlier from my colleague Abdullah Gababan Kudu, the Senate is set to yet again resume the screening of President Muhammadu Buhari's ministerial nominees. The order paper for today has only 3 names, however, listed for screening. They are Barrister Shittu, nominee from Oyo State, Claudius Omonle Daramola, and Khadija Ibrahim, ministerial nominee from Yobe State. We don't know why the Senate slated only 3 nominees for today. But before they commence the screening of ministerial nominees, according to the order paper, the Senate has about 10 bills to be read for the first time. This includes the bill on anti-criminal gang bill 2015 for first reading, FCT water board establishment, etc. bill 2015 for first reading, Nigerian agricultural quarantine service bill 2015 for first reading, hydroelectric power producing area development commission act 2010 amendment bill for first reading, and the deep offshore and inland basin production sharing contracts act cap D3 laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 amendment bill 2015. Also for first reading are the non-governmental organization regulations bill 2015, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 alteration bill 2015 for first reading, and the Students Financial Aid Scheme establishment, etc. bill 2015 for first readings. Also for first reading is the Gender and Equal Opportunities bill 2015 for first reading, and the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contracts Act laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 for first reading. We made attempts to get the chairman, Senate ad hoc committee for media and publicity, Senator Dino Melaye, to come and explain to us why today's order paper has only 3 ministerial nominees slated for screening. But we are told any time from now he will be here. But in case he is not, we will take you to the chambers and just get to know what is really happening. But for emphasis, only the following 3 ministerial nominees are slated for consideration. They are Barrister Shittu, Claudius Omonle Daramola, and Khadija Ibrahim. They are the 3 ministerial nominees slated for this Tuesday by the Senate of the Federal Republic to be screened. Let's take you to the chambers.
That is at the votes are proceeding on Thursday, 15 October 2015. Announcement.
This Tuesday by the Senate of the Federal Republic to be screened. Let's take you to the chambers.
Who was now been appointed as acting clerk of the country, KCC position. Announcement. Mr. Senate President, there will be a proposed meeting of the political party PDP. There will be a proposed meeting of one of the political parties in Nigeria, PDP, after plenary at the air room 1. Please ensure attendance. Signs of watcher. There will be minority leader. Announcement. Like we wish Senator Please ensure attendance. Signs of watcher. Minority leader. Point of order, announcement. Like we Read. The master questions are and object. Two, if the claim allowed by the President of the Senate and the President of the Senate given by at least one on all the Senate shall stand over the I would like to briefly object. A situation that has been bringing the financial and economy of our state for some weeks now is of great concern to us. And if my distinguished colleague will support that, I would like to bring the matter to the floor of the Senate tomorrow. And also, I want to thank Senator Yaya Lai, who actually one of my constituents thinking that I don't want to take it, but they are doing my mind of all the senators they take. But he wrote to me, like this they gave me motion, which I would like to send tomorrow. And I also like to include all the names of my colleagues, because each one of them have interest in Lagos, either financial or personal. So if you don't want your name to there, if you don't want your name to there, I'll gladly let me know, but I'd like to do that.
Distinguished colleagues, Senator, we are to discuss this matter under rules of 42, 1 and 2. If it's the wish of the distinguished colleagues, this matter will put next legislative. Those favor of say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Bring it next legislative. Distinguished colleagues, Senator, we are to discuss this matter under rules of 42, 1 and 2. If it's the wish of the distinguished colleagues, this matter will put next legislative. Those favor of say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Bring it next legislative.
Matter for discussion shall if possible be requested to the Senate President, the President of the Senate, commencement of the session, and the President of the Senate shall be to allow the claim unless satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. Mr. President, I want to bring to the attention of the Senate that sometime in 2009, when I was a member of the House of Representatives, I brought a matter of importance to the floor of the House of Representatives on the second Abuja Airport runway. The President contract was awarded then at 64 billion naira. When a year before, the same contract was actually listed in the budget for 8 billion. And by the time we carried out the right analysis, airport flew across the country. Find that amount was an entire airport, top length of the runway. Because of that motion, the contract was cancelled at that time by the President of Nigeria. And just yesterday,
Do are you coming on 42 or because since you already
Mr. President, I'm talking on 44. I don't know just yesterday, the newspapers were saying that the Abuja airport runway is got 63 billion naira. When the same runway was constructed by Governor Kude, 8 billion, was done in Akwa Ibom by the common governor for less about that amount. So now bring it up again for this amount is worrisome. But the need for the runway is very, very important. It's urgent. But at the same time, as the custodian of the heritage here, I want to bring it up so that
English colleagues trying to rely attention to this issue, and as far as that was one and two leave so that the matter next to the music people say aye, music is saying yes, as a matter of point of order. English colleagues trying to rely attention to this issue, and as far as that was one and two leave so that the matter next to the music people say aye, music is saying yes, as a matter
against nomination from Imo State to Amaka. If it pleases you, Mr. President, may I present this petition? May I lay it on the...
Come on, lady.
Thank you. If it pleases you, Mr. President, may I present this petition? May I lay it on the...
Come on, lady.
Thank you.
The petition is referred to Committee on Ethics and Privileges. Sir, you should be able to treat the report and bring it by tomorrow.
Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, Senator Samuel Mr. President, you know this is 10 petitions, so I cannot handle the 10 petitions at the same time. So tomorrow may not be.
The petition is referred to Committee on Ethics and Privileges. Thursday. Point of order, Senator Sanchez.
Mr. President, Comrade Shittu, representing Kaduna Central. I am empowered by the board which clearly stated that the petition may only be presented by Senator I have the petition here, but it's not for against editor. For two petitions, one from the Nigerian Union of Pensioners on the discrepancy with regards to their pension. The second one here is citizen from my state who was unjustly sacked as staff of Nigeria Export Processing Zone Authority, NEPTA. So with your permission, I will double this.
Okay, so he's not seeking any judicial remedies there? Okay, come and lay it on the table. We'll refer that to the Committee on Ethics and Petition. Sam, that would, and then in 2 weeks to bring the report back. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, before we start, just kind of reminder of every motion that the distinguished senator brings to this chamber is important. It is the definition of urgency that differentiates the two. Therefore, if one has a motion that can be built on our order paper, we don't need to really raise point of order on the floor. We will try as much as possible to bring to put the motion on the order paper within the week. That is to avoid this order every day. And that also try as much as possible straight to bring to put the motion on the order paper within distinguished the weeks, and that is to avoid this long time. Order every day. And that also distinguished colleagues, the first business of today is presentation of the bill standing in the name of our distinguished Senator Ibrahim on the Anti-Criminal Gang Bill 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Anti-Criminal Gang Bill 2015, SB 39, first reading.
Anti-Criminal Gang Bill 2015, SB 39, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, second bill of the day, presentation of the bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator on the Federal Capital Mr. President, you may wish to invite Lala of Senate
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Capital Territory Water Board Establishment, PTCC, 2015,
FCC Water Board Establishment, etc. Bill 2015, SB 70, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, that business 2015,
FCC Water Board Establishment, etc.
D3, Laws of Federation of Nigeria 2004, Amendment Bill 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contracts Act, CAP D3, Law of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, Amendment Bill 2015, SB 98, first reading.
Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contract Act, CAP D3, Laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 2004, Amendment Bill 2015, SB 99, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Duro Fashe on the Non-Governmental Organizations Regulation Bill 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Non-Governmental Organizations Regulation Bill 2015, SB 111, first reading.
Non-Governmental Organization Regulation Bill 2015, SB 111, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the seventh business of the day is presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Rose Oko on the Constitution Alteration Bill 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, Alteration Bill 2015, SB 113, first reading.
Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, Alteration Bill 2015, SB 113, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the eighth business of the day is presentation of the bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Isa Hama Misau, not Musa, on the Students' Financial Aid Scheme Establishment, etc., Bill 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Isa Hama Misau.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Students' Financial Aid Scheme Establishment, etc., Bill 2015, SB 114, first reading.
Students' Financial Aid Scheme Establishment, etc., Bill 2015, 114, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the ninth business of the day is presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Biodun Olajumi on the Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill 2015. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill 2015, SB 116, first reading.
Gender and Equal Opportunities Bill 2015, SB 116, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the last, that is the 10th business of the day, is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Theodore Oji on the Deep Offshore and Inland Basin Production Sharing Contracts Act, COA D3, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004 Amendment Bill, and I think the clerk needs to look at that because it's a duplication. Well,
we'll stand this number 10 down while the chairman business can guide us accordingly.
Therefore, distinguished colleague, Mr. President, you may wish to stand down.
Yeah, we'll stand this down.
Sort it out.
Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, The first order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Foster Ogola and 17 others on the demise of Governor DSP Olumiseya. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Foster Ogola to move the motion.
Senator Ogola.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate, Federal Republic of Nigeria, my fellow distinguished senators, you recall that last week, Wednesday, precisely 14th October, I sought leave of these hallowed chambers to move a motion on the demise of the former governor of Bayelsa State, Chief Jeffrey Solomon Peter Alame Seya, PhD, JP. And this morning, I'm moving this motion on this demise of our former Bayelsa State governor, and I have 14 co-sponsors, namely Senator Polka Emmanuel, Senator Osinachuku Idozu, and several others. The Senate notes the demise of former governor of Bayelsa State, Chief Jeffrey Solomon Peter Alame Seya, at the age of 63. The Senate notes further that Chief DSP Alame Seya was the first democratically elected governor of Bayelsa State, having been elected in May 1999 and re-elected in 2003, and generally referred to by his people as the Governor General of the Zone Nation. The Senate appreciates that Chief Alame Seya, before becoming governor, served the nation as a member of the Nigerian Air Force, where he retired as a squadron leader. The Senate appreciates further that he held various other public positions, including sole administrator of Powerboard Supplies in Port Harcourt, a state-owned company, and head of budget, planning, research, and development in National Fertilizer Company of Nigeria, NAFCON. The Senate are aware that Chief Alame Seya was widely acknowledged as a voice of unity in the John Nation, the South-South geopolitical zone, and in the Nigerian nation. Aware also that Chief Alame Seya received many awards for his commitment to national unity by many political, social, and traditional bodies, including the Katsina Emirate Council, which turbaned him as the Gakuwan Katsina. The Senate further aware that Chief Alame Seya was a governor and loving man whose death is not only a loss to Bayelsa State, the Zone people, the South-South geopolitical zone in particular, but also to the entire Nigerian nation at large. Hereby accordingly resolves to 1, send a high-powered Senate delegation to condole with the family, people, and government of Bayelsa State, and 2, observe a minute silence for the departed former governor. I so move.
Senator Polka.
Mr. President, Senator Polka Emmanuel is my name, Bayelsa Central. Dear colleagues, I rise with deep sense of humor to second this motion on the death of Chief DSP Alamisia, who was fondly called Alamco, Governor General of his own land. Indeed, I had the privilege of serving under him as a Commissioner for Lands and Housing in 1999. Mr. President, Bayelsans are very much aggrieved because of this loss. And I thank my colleague. In fact, a lot of others were very eager to join us in moving this motion. Mr. President, the resolution which we are demanding is very simple, just 2 items. For Senate to join Bayelsans in mourning the loss of this great son, not only of Bayelsa, but indeed the country. So with these few words, I proudly second the motion urging the Senate to join Bayelsans in mourning this loss of our great leader, our son, the Governor General of his own land. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator James Manager.
Your Excellency, Mr. President of the Senate, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellencies, my respected colleagues, James Manager, CON, Delta South. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I rise on behalf of the senatorial district that I represent, and quite a number of job people are there, to say a few words about the demands of Chief DSP Alamisia. DSP Alamisia was loved and liked by all those who came across him when he was alive. Quite a number of the senators today who were governors same time with Alamisia will bear testimony to the fact that Alamisia was a jolly good fellow. And he was full of life. Alamisia worked very hard to earn that name, Governor General of Ijaw people. Alamisia, during his tenure, Bayelsa became home to all the Ijaw people, and the Ijaw people from almost about 5 or 6 other states in the South-South geopolitical region or zone. The death of Alamisia came as a very rude shock to all of us. It's a great loss to all of us, particularly when he was only 62 years, 63. We had hoped that he still had many years of service to humanity. But death is something that no human being, no living organism will run away from. He's gone today, and we mourn him, and we commiserate on behalf of my senatorial district. I commiserate with the families of Alamisia, with the senatorial district that Polka represents here in the Senate, Bayelsa State at large, the Ijaw people, home and abroad, the South-South people of Nigeria, and of course all those who liked and loved Alamisia when he was alive. Your Excellency, with these few words, I say Alamisia, DSP, bye.
Senator Gemadi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Barnabas Gemade, Benue Northeast Senatorial District. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to give my short tribute to the life of a great man, former governor of Bayelsa State, DSP Alames here. Mr. President, this is a fine man whose life and contribution to this nation has been greatly misunderstood. It's a man whom I got to know at the formative stage of my former party, the People's Democratic Party.
Now the minority, but now the minority. Now the minority.
In 1999, I had responsibility of superintending the selection of a governor for Bayelsa State under that party. And that job saw DSP Alames here, a just retired squadron leader in the Nigerian Air Force, become the candidate. And he picked his running mate, a school teacher out of River State institution. And there was a hue and cry in the political class of Bayelsa State, led by Senator Milford Okilo and supported by Senator Diffa, who all said, "What is this? Who are these people? We don't know these people in politics. How can they lead a young state like Bayelsa when more serious, more experienced political gurus are here?" And that matter became a very critical issue. And I'd like to state here that the magnanimity of DSP Alames here and his ability to interact and liaise with elders of his state went a very long way indeed in ensuring that that matter was eventually settled amicably. And all these elders supported him fully for that election, and he became governor with the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, as his deputy. Now, Yenagoa, the capital of Bayelsa State, was then a one-street town. And the only buildings you could see there that were buildings of repute were federal government establishment and agricultural establishments for fertilizer, storage, and things of this nature. But just a few years down the line, Alames here, as governor, turned that one street city, town, into a city of many roads and many developments, thanks to a good team that was supporting him, like our distinguished Senator Porker as Commissioner for Housing. Not only that, I think if we talk about putting the Ijaw nation on the map of Nigeria, this is a man who earned the name of Governor General of Nigeria, who really can be remembered as the man that put the minority ethnic nationality of Ijaw people on the solid map of Nigeria and internationally. The misunderstanding involving his role in the governance of Bayelsa State, I believe with a matter of time, will be settled. I join my colleagues in bidding farewell to this great leader of Ijaw people and former governor of Bayelsa State, DSP Alames. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Amen.
Senator Sekibo.
Mr. Senior President, my colleagues, I am Senator George Thompson Sekibo, CON. I represent the River East Central District. Mr. President, I rise on behalf of all the Ijaw people in Rivers State, which cut across the three central districts, to mourn our leader who has passed to the glory of the Almighty God. When that bell rings, he does not choose whom to take. When that bell rings, he takes who it wants to take. When that bell rings, he does not ask a group, who do you want to offer for it? I believe if that question was asked the job people, many of us will have suggested those of us who are 90, 100, and within that range of ages. LMS here, a rallying point of the Ijaw nation, wouldn't have been given as a sacrifice for this purpose. But death comes, and it takes whom it wants to take. Today, we have lost a great leader who in the past 16 years has put his feet down and be sure that the fourth largest ethnic group in Nigeria, which has been abandoned for this long, is remembered. That the Ijaw nation is once more back on the map of Nigeria. Today, we remember him for all the good things he has done for us, for putting the South people together. Today, we remember him through his teaching and mentorship. The Ijaw nation was able to bring forth a president for this great country, which is not likely to have happened if DSP has not, in his humility, choosing Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who was then not a very active politician, and brought him to the forefront and exposed him to the whole nation. Today, if there's nothing he has done at all, he was able to give a contribution of a perfect human being to lead this country, and who has done very well successfully. Today, I join all his followers here, his admirers, to wish him farewell. Adieu, Alames here, until we meet again, when we all come to see you. Thank you very much.
Senator Akume.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Senator George Akume, Benue Northwest. Mr. President, I rise to pay tribute to a great Nigerian, a great man, a fine and extraordinary personality who, through the grace of God, became the governor of Bayelsa State. Mr. President, Alamasia had served in Benue, and it was while serving as an officer in the Air Force in Makurdi that I got to know him. Fate brought us together in the PDP. When we assembled from the North Central Zone in Jos to take a decision where to go, Alamasia met me the following day in Abuja. He was one of the pioneer politicians supporting the formation of the PDP. Again, fate brought us together, governors of our respective states. I, superintending over Benue, Alamasia taking charge of Bayelsa. From time to time, we shared certain ideas about our country. He, coming from a minority group from the south, and I also coming from a minority group from the north. There was one thing discernible from Alamasia. Why we refer to him as hero of Ijaw nation. Alamasia looked at himself beyond a nation. Alamasia regarded himself, perhaps because of his upbringing as a military man, first and foremost as a Nigerian. He wasn't committed to irredentism when he was fighting for resource control. And we met at the Benue Governor's Lodge in Abuja. He said, if he were a senior person at the time of mining in the north in those days, he would have supported the establishment of a fund to support the reclamation of land on the plateau. And this is why I say Alamasia was not just an Ijaw person, he was a Nigerian, a fine person. Mr. President, Alamasia had to leave Government House for Nigeria to get another person from Ijaw Nation, the man who later became our president. The circumstances were unconstitutional. They were illegal. And I know that a few of the governors were targeted in those days. Alamasia was one of them. We lost Alamasia as a governor, but we gained, through the Ijaw Nation, another person as the president of our country. The rest is history. Perhaps if Alamasia had continued, he would have become the president of this country. Nobody knows, but God knows. Outside of our respective government houses, Alamasia met me again in Abuja. He was going to Benue. Why? Because there was a law passed by the House of Assembly, and it was apparent that the governor was going to assent to that bill. And the bill prohibited the sale and drinking of kai kai. And he said, because Ijaw people were so many in Benue, the law targeted the Ijaws. And he told me, and I was inclined to believe, that a law should not be particularistic. His people were targeted. I said, no. I'm inclined to believe, but when you look at it, those who are consuming are really our people who were no longer farming as they should have been doing. It wasn't really targeted at a particular ethnic group. But he went to Benue. He asked me to speak to the governor, who, by the grace of God, I supported to be the governor of Benue. Well, it didn't work out the way we wanted. But Alamasia remained undaunted. He kept going to Benue from time to time, and he told me his job was to do what? To be a bridge builder. Frankly, such people are rare. He's no more. But if he wanted to be a bridge builder.
Good morning. You are still on to the services of the Nigerian Television Authority, reaching you from the National Assembly. Currently, the senators are deliberating on a motion remembering the late governor of Bayelsa State, Dipri Alemesia, who died recently. I will now take you inside the lobby of the National Assembly, where Muhammad Kudu Abubakar is standing by to tell us what will be next after this motion is being presented to do with Dipri Alemesia, who died recently. Muhammad, over to you.
NTA coming to you live from the Senate of the Federal Republic. The Senate is right now paying tributes to the late Bayelsa State Governor, Chief Depre Solomon Peter Alemesia, who died at the age of 63. And very shortly, the moment they finish with that tribute, we are expecting the Senate to commence the screening of ministerial nominees. Earlier, we told you that today, Tuesday, the 20th of October 2015, the Senate in its wisdom has put on its order paper slated only 3 ministerial nominees for screening. They include Barrister Adebayo Shittu, nominee from Oyo State, Kledos Omoleye Daramola, and Khadija Abba Ibrahim, ministerial nominee from Yobe State. We wanted to get Chairman, Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Media and Publicity to explain to us why this sudden change from about 8 ministerial nominees that were in the earlier order paper for Tuesday to only 3, and he is here with us.
Yeah, good morning, Kudu and Nigerians. Basically, the reason why we reduced the number of nominees is because we responded to the agitations and yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians. We have monitored the reactions of Nigerians on the issue of these ministerial nominees, and we found out that Nigerians believe that we are rushing the process and that it's not as thorough as they would desire, and because of that we have agreed that we should reduce to 3 or 4 per day, so that the interactions and screening exercise will be more thorough, and Nigerians will appreciate who is going to be their minister.
Yesterday you were on the NTA and you told the world that today the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions would present its reports with respect to its investigations and petitions against 2 ministerial nominees, former River State Governor Rotimi Amechi.
I believe this is the time to pray for our friends, to pray for our country. Mr. Chairman, once DSP Alamasia called me just before the 2015 election to say that somebody very important called him and said he wanted to go to his house to see him. When reaching there, he saw 2 photographs in his sitting room. One was his family, and the other one was Rabi Musa Konkus. And the man was really shocked and asked him, is this man that close to you? He said, yes. Very, very, very close to me. He said, then you have to do something about G7 at that time. The governors that were in PPP, who were trying by all means to bring insanity to the party.
Join in paying tribute to DSP Alamese, who served under me as an officer in the Nigerian Air Force from the rank of pilot officer to flight lieutenant when I left to go and be the military governor of Benue State. Alamese was a fine officer, because I wrote his confidential reports from that rank when he was commissioned that made him flying officer and made him flight lieutenant. Again, when Alamese was elected governor of Bayelsa State, it was a thing of pride to me, having raised an officer that became one of the political governors from the military background in a young state then as Bayelsa. I had the opportunity to visit him and some other people in Bayelsa State. Having known the area when it was River State. And as he took us around, he drove us himself and took us around all the projects he was executing up to the university, the state university he has built. And I want to say that Alamese has laid the foundation, a very solid foundation for the development of Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State people, the Ijo nation and the nation, and all of us who have known him are going to miss him. I pray the Almighty God that he will comfort the government and the people of Bayelsa State, particularly his beloved wife and the family. Thank you for the opportunity. May his soul rest in perfect peace with the Lord. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, I do know that there are many members of the forum, the distinguished forum of different classes that would like to speak, and I know that, but I will seek that we now go to prayers. Prayer 1, send a high-powered Senate delegation to condole with the family, people, and government of Bayelsa State. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, observe a minute's silence for the departure from our governor. All rise to observe a minute's silence. Gentle soul rest in perfect peace. Amen. The delegation that will go to condole the family, the good people of Bayelsa State, led by Deputy Chief Whip, Senator Francis Alimekena, Senator Mao Habama, Senator Olujimi, Senator Dari, Senator Aliru, Senator Kurufi, and also all the senators from Bayelsa State. Leader of the Senate.
One, Barrister Adebayo Shittu. 2, Cledius Omele Daramola. And 3, Khadija Abba Ibrahim. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may recall that the Senate concluded the screening of 18 nominees for the ministerial appointment on Wednesday, October 2015. Senate will now resume the screening of the remaining nominees. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in order to carry out this exercise in conformity with our Standing Order 17, that's floor privileges, I will move 2 motions. First, I move that the Senate do resolve into Committee of the Whole to conduct the confirmation hearings. So moved.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do resolve into the Committee of the Whole to continue the confirmation of ministerial nominees. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do resolve into the Committee of the Whole to conduct confirmation and say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. President, second motion is that I move that the Senate do suspend relevant sections of our standing order to admit nominees and the special advisor to the President on National Assembly matters and any other interested persons into the Senate chamber.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second that motion that we do suspend our standing orders in order to admit the nominees, the special advisor to the President on Senate matters, and other interested personalities. I so second.
Those in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Sergeant Usher in the adjournment.
The Senate is now in a committee of the whole, and at this
Any issues that you think you want to bring to our notice. After that, we will take a few questions.
Most distinguished President of the Senate, the Deputy Senate President, all leaders of the Senate, all distinguished members of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. My names are Ibrahim Shittu. I'm happy you already have my CV, but I want to highlight a few things. To start with, I want to thank Almighty Allah, who created us and who gave me this unique opportunity to stand before what I believe to be the best and the most productive Senate on the soil of Africa. I have come a long way with due respect and in all humility. I started politics in 1979 after having qualified to be a lawyer. And for all of these 36 years, whether during the military regimes or during political regimes, I have consistently remained a politician because I believe that politics is the most noble profession on earth. So I want to congratulate all of you here, most distinguished senators, for being guided to take on the duties and responsibilities of leaders of our country for working towards the betterment of the Nigerian nation. I feel happy and excited again to be before you. Undoubtedly, the Senate of the 8th National Assembly is made up of the most distinguished, most productive, most resourceful, most democratic political elite that Nigeria can ever boast of in the life of our dear country. Its unity of purpose within the cultural diversity. We all know that Nigeria is made up of more than 350 ethnic nationalities. So for us to have a Senate that represents all of these diverse groups, and for this Senate to be able to work in tandem with the spirit of unity of purpose, I want to commend this distinguished Senate. In my view, this Senate is unarguably a mirror, or the best mirror, of our people's aspirations, their expectations, their goals, and their life ambitions. I want to assure distinguished senators that if my nomination, for which I'm appearing before you today, is confirmed, I will do my very best, and I intend to leverage on it to develop a robust action plan, particularly to ensure that, unlike before, Nigerian senators and members of the executive have regular interactive sessions so that we will all be able to work in tandem with the goals for which the Nigerian Senate is established. I am happy to say that in my 36 years of being in politics, I've worked in every sector of the Nigerian governance structure. I've been a member of the House of Assembly between 1979, when I qualified to become a lawyer, and 1983. I've also served in the executive because I was a commissioner twice. First in 1983, when I was the Honorable Commissioner for Home Affairs, Information and Culture, and also in 2007, when I was appointed as Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice of Oyo State. I again served as a member of the Judicial Service of Oyo State, and I am happy that I would be a round peg in any ministerial round hole, by the grace of God. I learned my politics from the late Chief Obafemi Awolowo, because Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the late, who is the sage in Nigerian politics, he, in 1977, established what was known as Committee of Friends. Committee of Friends. That Committee of Friends later transformed into what became the Unity Party of Nigeria. Even as a member of even as an undergraduate of the then University of Ife, I was the only student member of the Committee of Friends. So, and I, in my own little way, assisted in the formulation of the Constitution and the Manifesto of the Unity Party of Nigeria. So coming from this background, if I have my way, Nigeria should adopt the 4 cardinal programs of the UPN because they are people-centered. You talk of free education at all levels, free health services at all levels, and so on and so forth. Again, I was in CPC because I had a choice at that time. Unarguably, our president today is one Nigerian who is believed to be the best and the quintessence in all moral considerations, in all moral factors. So because I believe that I share the same qualities, the same attributes with the president, it was easy for me to join the party and to preach the same ideals, for which Mr. President was elected. So I want to assure this Senate that by the grace of God, I would not disappoint the Nigerian Senate if I am confirmed. I will not disappoint our president and his government, and I will not disappoint the Nigerian people. I want to thank you most sincerely. May God bless all of you, distinguished senators.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Nominee Ibrahim. I represent Abia South. Mr. Nominee, going through your CV, I applaud where you said that you are consistent and that you have always believed in certain causes and that you follow them to the end. As you also speak in here, you also told us
we sincerely apologize for
Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Samuel. I represent Imo East, Imo State. Mr. Nominee, I just have one simple question for you. In case, after screening, and you are confirmed by this Senate as the Minister of Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and you are given the responsibility to man or superintend over the Ministry of Culture, Tourism, and National Recreation, what policies will you formulate that will galvanize this sector as a foreign exchange earner, tool for cultural diplomacy, national development, and most especially insulating the entertainment industry from piracy and intellectual property theft? Thank you.
Mr. Shittu, may take this question.
So, Mr. Senate President. The first question by the senator from Nassau South. I'm sorry I didn't get your name properly. It's about losing the election. Why I lost the election. It is obvious that in year 2011, in the whole of Southwest, or most of Southwest, the Action Congress of Nigeria was the party to beat. So if you were the best of candidates, and if you had all the money, the people at that time in the Southwest had made up their mind that seeing the Action Congress of Nigeria as a successor party to the Unity Party of Nigeria then, that was the party they wanted. I am happy to say that even though our party then, CPC, was formed less than a year to that election, I still scored 15,000 votes. With due respect to those who were in EMPP. EMPP was a senior party in the country at that time. The EMPP at that time scored 2,000 votes to my own 15,000. And I was the one, my personality, was the one who transformed our party to become the third most popular party in the state at that time. I am happy and I'm proud with all due humility that my failure at that time was not about my personality. It was about the fixtures, the vision and the thinking of our people in the Southwest who felt that the Action Congress of Nigeria was the party which represented their interests. And I want to remark that throughout all the 16 states of the southern Nigeria, I scored the highest votes among CPC governors in the whole of South. There was no state in the south of Nigeria which didn't have a CPC governorship candidate, but I led them all. And that is to show that my personality and my popularity played a role, in the amount of, you can imagine the difference between a new party scoring 15,000 and a much older party scoring 2,000 in that election. So I hope that I have answered that question. Our distinguished Senator Abaribe talked of religious indictments. I say with all sense of responsibility that I have never been indicted by any panel of inquiry. I recently became aware of a gazette, and I have copies of that gazette. I don't know whether Mr. President will allow me to make reference to it. What happened? In that year 2000, I was the secretary of the National Committee on Hajj. And throughout the period that the crisis occurred, I was away in Saudi Arabia on national assignment. So I was not even in the country when the crisis occurred. And if you look through the gazette, I was not invited. And in law, if you are not invited, if there are allegations against you and you are not invited, whatever finding which comes out goes to no issue. Number two, in that gazette, I was not even alleged of anything. At the tail end of it, perhaps for political reasons, because I was in PDP then, somebody smuggled, something into it to say that the governor should advise me, not indictment, The list of those indicted is in the Gazette. I have copies of it here. He said that I should be advised not to be publishing his publications which are capable of bringing about whatever crisis. There is no nexus between any of my books. I have written 7 standard books and other pamphlets on Islam because I believe in morality, because I believe that life must be about service to God. And a lot of people may be religious, but they are not godly. So I describe Nigeria as a country of religiosity without godliness. Because on Fridays and Sundays, you find everybody, being religious. They either go to church or mosque. And yet, godliness is not reflected in our, behaviors. So I have always had this abiding faith in the fact that Nigerians must be moralized. Nigerians must move more to God instead of the show of mere religiosity. So I was never invited and I was never alleged. There is no allegation. And there was also no indictment. Because if you talk of an advice cannot be an indictment. I'm speaking here as a lawyer, and I know that even non-lawyers know that there's a difference between indictment and advice. What is more important, sir? After that Gazette, where I was sought to be advised, the government brought out another Gazette. I have a copy of it also here, saying that they had forgiven all those who have been indicted. And so the case against them was truncated. The case was, stopped by the government, which brought out the thing. So I want to assure distinguished senators that I remain a bridge builder, I remain a social mixer. My secretary in my chambers for the past 7 years is the wife of a pastor. That woman who is my secretary is the one who types and processes all my correspondences, whether private or public. As a matter of fact, she's an SU. She doesn't use earrings. And she enjoys very comfortable working relationship with me. So I am not an extremist, I'm not a religious fanatic, but I believe in God, and I believe that as much as possible, everybody must work towards a saner and more godly society. And there's the question from Senator Kurfi about delay in justice administration. I hope I've gotten him well. I'm happy to say that the government has recently promulgated a criminal administration act, which is aimed at solving all the problems about delayed prosecutions and so on and so forth. And I believe that if, for instance, I happen to be Attorney General, all that I need to do is to pursue the strict execution of the contents of that new act, which happily was passed by this distinguished Senate. The last point is about culture and tourism. It talks of what I would likely want to do. Happily enough, I used to be the Honorable Commissioner for Home Affairs, Information and Culture. And so going to a culture ministry would not be going to a strange land for me. I have done it before. By the grace of God, since culture is part and parcel of our national life and our private life, I will do the utmost to ensure that Nigeria, reaps the best out of, our culture, particularly in promoting culture as an economic, agenda, and promoting tourism also as an economic agenda for the betterment of our country. Sports. Sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Senate President. I want to get the questions done properly. The first one is you're requesting for the policy to bring about change. Number two, sir.
Once again, we apologize for
this present government should do
first is about policy to take care of change. I believe with all due humility and sense of responsibility that the Constitution and the manifesto of APC, I want to say with all due humility that I happen to have been a member of the merger committee, not only of CPC, but also of APC, and I contributed immensely to formulating the contents of both of these documents. The documents adequately capture all those policies that will be required to bring about change. The issue of change, with respect to all distinguished senators, is not just about campaign of, fun, but about bringing about real change in the lives of people. We know that over the years, Nigerians have gone through a lot of hell. It looks to me, from my experience, that over the years, once politicians are elected into government, they simply say bye-bye to the masses who elected them. A lot of people, when you ask them what have they gained from government over the years, they hardly have anything to point at. So what I believe must be done, and which are captured in both the Constitution and Manifesto of APC, is to ensure that policies which directly affect the lives of individuals are captured. I'll give a very simple example. One of our policies is that children in schools should be given a meal a day throughout the country. If we succeed in implementing this policy, what that simply means is that there must be more productivity on the part of farmers who must try and produce food items for sale to government, for sale to government contractors, so that there will be adequate food to go around. If there is increased agricultural productivity, ipso facto, there will be more money in the pockets of our farmers. Again, you talk of the impact of this free meal a day on transporters. If transporters, necessarily transporters will be required to take foodstuffs from farms to city centers, to communities, where government would have to buy them and then use them in the implementation of its policy. So there are several other such things. Again, the issue of giving some money monthly to the agent, as it was being done in Ekiti State, and I think to a large extent in Osun State also. The party decided to capture this in our manifesto, so that not only would children be attracted to go to school and to stay in school, if only because of the fact that they will have a meal superior to what they used to eat in their homes, with due respect to parents. We know that poverty has become endemic in Nigeria. Most parents hardly have 10 naira to give their children who go to school, and as a result, a lot of children become poor than they don't go to school. But in the hope that they get food to eat in school, a lot of parents, a lot of children will go to school, and consequently they would benefit from education. The second question from distinguished Senator Francis is about youth and sports ministry. How do you engage our youth? In Nigeria, there are less than 5 active sports which are, being engaged in. Whereas in the country like Egypt, there are more than 15 different kinds of sports. Sports not only assist in building healthy lives, it is also a money spinner. As we know that competitions at the international level, at the national level, local level are regularly being held, and awards and monies exchange hands. So I believe that if I have the opportunity of being the Minister of Youth and Sports, I will ensure that we update our actions on the issue of sports. Sports is very important. One of the things I would like to do is to ensure that grassroots sport is developed to the optimum. As a matter of fact, not only would those who engage in sports earn livelihood, of course, a lot of other multiplier effect will also not be there. Of course, people will pay to watch this. So the economy will become more robust than it is if we really, identify all the important sports, including local traditional sports. It will require a whole lecture, to itemize all of this. And so I want to leave it at that. Distinguished Senator Yinaya Baribe talked of 4 months, no Attorney General, and functions are not being effective. I am aware, and I have also Senator Bina, sorry, most respectful. I am aware that there are agitations now all over the country for a separation of the office of the Attorney General from that of Minister of Justice. It is unfortunate that Nigeria does not, have these separate offices. I believe and I'm happy that this Senate is already aware of its importance. If we didn't know the importance, the fact that for 4 months we have not had an Attorney General and jobs that are supposed to be done by the office of the Attorney General cannot lawfully be done would explain the fact that it is very important for us to have a separation in the powers. The importance of having a separate office of Attorney General is that once he's appointed, his tenure is like that of a high court judge. He cannot be removed except with the approval of the Senate. To that extent, he will be able to move even against high government officials, when they are required to be moved against. So it is important that, what has happened for the last 4 months is been lost already. Unfortunately, we have lost the last 4 or 5 months. But I believe that with the appointment of the ministers, it is possible that lost grounds will be regained. Senator Obina again asked about the manifesto. I think I must have covered that in what I've said in the past. I move on to Senator Benga Shafar's question, curbing excesses and restfulness of youth. One of the objectives of free education is to produce citizens who will respect law and order, is to produce citizens who will be gainfully employed, is to produce citizens who will have integrity of their own persons. Anybody who is educated will not engage in excesses, will not engage in extremism, will not engage in restlessness. So Nigeria, over the years, we have always believed that free education is expensive. But like it has always been said, if you consider free education being expensive, then try ignorance. You will discover that ignorance is more expensive than free education. So I think one major, solution to the issue of excesses and youth excesses and restlessness is for people to be engaged in education. After education, there must be policies. Because again, I'm sorry I have to keep referring to my, antecedent, that is, the platform, over which I started my politics. Consequent upon free education, there is also full employment. A lot of people still don't believe that it is possible for everybody to be engaged. As far as I am, as young as I am, I think I have adequate ideas about how government can ensure that everybody is educated, both those who are currently unemployed and those who are underemployed. So I want to say that education is the way to go if indeed we are serious about, curbing effectively, youth excesses and restiveness. The next question is about specific role that religious leaders must play in government. With due respect to all of us here, I always see the behavior of politicians and public officers as that of an ostrich who hides its head in the sand, whereas the rest of the body is outside. We are all religious, and yet we don't want religion to have any role in governance. If I have my way, all religious leaders should be paid officers government should pay them salaries so that they can play the role of moralizing society. As I am, with all due respect, I don't need a policeman or EFCC or ICPC before I determine that I will not steal. I don't need a policeman before I decide not to be evil, because I know that God, who is the ultimate policeman, who is more effective than our police, would see me. So if we can pick these ideas, and I am happy that these ideas are taught by both Islam and Christianity, we will spend less on maintenance of security. So I believe that religion must be made compulsory in our institutions. And then we should also ensure that even in the Senate, there would not be any, it would not be out of place to have both a chaplain and an imam, so that before the commencement of plenary every day, they would give one item of lesson or the other about governance. I am happy if you are. Whether I should take that. In more organized societies, cattle are not being allowed to move freely as they like. There are cattle ranches, there are thorough paths for them to move. It is not even in Kenya, cattle don't just move about. There's no doubt that those who have farms cannot take their farms away from their lands. For the cattle rearer, when he's going in a direction, excuse me, he hardly knows or cares whether there's any farm or not. He's sending his cattle because he needs food for the cattle. And because these people are very, very desperate, they are prepared to kill in the process of defending what they consider to be the right of their cattle to feed. So I believe government has a responsibility, particularly now, to ensure that at all levels of government, at the local government level, at the state government level, at the federal government level, we establish cattle ranches which will be necessarily fenced. There are easy ways of doing that, because even in Africa here, we have examples to copy. So I believe that the solution is to ensure that I'm before the Senate, which has the ultimate responsibility for law to bring about orderliness and security of the Nigerian people. So, with all humility, I hope that this will be a challenge for us as a Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I represent the good people of Delta Central, Delta State, and all Urhobo people anywhere they are in the world. The bad ones, I don't represent the bad ones, I represent only the good ones. Alhaji Shittu, thank you very much for your nomination. I have gone through your CV, very, very rich. You were once Attorney General of Oyo State. You were once a member of the National Committee on Hajj between 2000 and 2003. I asked, in the last election, this last election, you were a gubernatorial aspirant in Oyo State. You lost. Are you in tribunal? Are you in court? And if you are in court, if you win, will you want to go back as a candidate of your party? 20 in his CV said in 2014. In his CV, 2014.
Address it.
And I understand you are in court with the present governor of Oyo State. If you win, will you want to go back as governor of Oyo State? Or you want to remain as a minister if you are cleared? 2, you were Attorney General of Oyo State. If you are cleared and you are made Attorney General of the Federation, what reform will you want to introduce into the justice system? 3, hello? You were a member of the National Committee on Hajj between 2002 and 2003. 2000 and 2003. In view of the recent happening in Saudi Arabia, what reform will you introduce to ensure that such occurrence do not happen again? And finally, what role did you play in the Ife Mudakake riots in the early 80s, positive or negative? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Danjuma Goje.
It was on your then.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Mohammed representing the sector. Mr. Nominee, for the eve of the virus, I was enabled to travel for secondary time. And he came before us, intending to protest against the sitting governor of the virus. So we asked a question, why do you want to protest when the other state, and who state, who does not sitting governor, is not opposition? And that is solution to us, that you and the governor never said.
Never, sorry, sir.
You said the governor never said that you are more popular, more accessible than the governor, that in 2011 you are contrary to what you said earlier on in this interview. The question we gave us is that the governor didn't deliver the law. So that's why we want to contest the 2020 with the full expectation that you give the dollar advance. We can't do it in the fact that this man was sitting governor. He didn't have sitting governor. I was sitting governor. I know what it is. I did attention to that fact. I was the chairman. But he insisted. And you went ahead to contest the primaries and you lost, woefully. Now, there's this general notion, and I saw in the papers last week, some states where there will be likely frictions between governors and ministers. Would you tell this hallowed chamber whether, if we confirm you, you will cease, you will put your sword back and work in harmony with the governor? That's question number one. Question number two, and question number two related to question number one, are you still going to contest in 2019?
President Shittu, I think you better take this set of questions, as they are still fresh.
President, it is true that I contested as a candidate of CPC for the governorship of Oyo State in 2011. In 2014, 2015, I was not even given the opportunity to contest, and I'll tell you why. In 2015, well, ironically, it is really supposed to be an internal APC matter. I don't know whether senators want me to. Do I answer it or not? May I be guided by me? Yes, thank you. We were in different parties, and then there was a merger. When merger came up, we agreed at the merger committee level that pending the time elections or congresses will hold, we should have harmonization committees. By harmonization is meant that leaders of each of the merging parties would constitute the acting or temporary executive of the party at the ward level, local government level, state level. I was the leader of CPC in Oyo State. When the list came out, my name was missing there. Of course, as somebody who believes he has a right, going by the decision of the merger committee, multi-party merger committee, I wrote petitions, 5 in all. They were not responded to. Because I said, look, I must represent my party. Because the decision of the merge party, the new APC, is that we should all be there. When no action was taken on it, your distinguished, may I be protected, distinguished. So I challenged my exclusion in court. As a lawyer, we don't resort to fisticuffs, we don't resort to violence, we don't resort to self-help. What we do is, if we have grievances which cannot be settled out of court, we go to court. So I went to court to ensure that my name was, relisted. In the process, our president sent one of our new nominees, Mr. Ocholi, to come and reconcile myself and the governor. And the assurance that we're giving is we would soon have congresses. So, for 2-3 months, just, tolerate what is happening. And I want to say this by way of digression. In several states where that type of thing happened, we even were expecting our president to speak on our behalf, but in his wisdom, he decided to let things lie low. Perhaps because he believed that there was a bigger prize that we could get. In any case, I will do the case on the intervention of Senior Advocate Ocholi. And then the Congress's guidelines came. When the guidelines came, they said people who are interested in positions should take forms and fill it, and then there will be contests in all the wards, in all the local governments, and at the state level. But then our governor, who is now my friend and my brother, I want to assure, gave out an instruction that he didn't want elections to hold. He wanted us to agree on, consensus. As a loyal party man who is also patriotic, we agreed. But a delegation from CPC then met with him to say that, again, as at that time, because ANPP was also excluded from the harmonization committee list, they, in fact, in annoyance, left our party entirely. They left APC. Some went to Labour Party, some went to SDP, some went to Accord. But as a loyal party man, I decided to stay on. So we went to the governor to say, now that ANPP had left, it remains only CPC and ACN. So please, other questions. Maybe I should. Mr. President has generously asked me to move on to the next question. The next question is about, as Attorney General, what reform into justice system would you undertake? Justice really is about our lives, because there's no sector of the Nigerian polity which does not rely one way or the other or is not affected one way or the other in the justice administration system. When I was Attorney General in Oyo State, I did 2 major things. Hitherto, when seminars and workshops are to be held, maybe in Lagos or in Abuja or overseas, they would nominate 2 or 3 lawyers to go and attend. But I felt that would not be productive enough. The same money that you will use to train 2 or 3 people overseas, you can use that same money to train the entire law officers in the ministry. So I ensured that all those who engage in training or retraining of lawyers, particularly from different professional angles, were brought to Ibadan to, train and retrain, staff of my ministry. Apart from that, they were also given stipends as if they were going outside, and everybody was happy, and everybody, enjoyed and benefited from those, training and workshop programs. Number two, I had a request from the civil servants asking that we buy about 5 new buses to take care of the different departments in the ministry. If we buy these buses, it will mean we will have additional expenditure of recruiting drivers and buying petrol fuel regularly and maintaining those vehicles. So I felt that rather than buying, these 5 vehicles, why don't we do grants, evolve grants for all lawyers, so that not only would lawyers have a vehicle to take them from their offices to courts, they will also be able to come from their homes easily, from their homes to the ministry, and from the ministry to courts, and so on and so forth, and it makes it easier. So I recommended that each legal officer in the ministry should be given a car grant of 1 million naira, which was graciously approved by His Excellency Senator Rashidi Ladoja. And so we divided them, they were about 36 then, we divided them into 3 different groups, and we paid them 1 million naira. Of course, everybody was happy, and it improved productivity, greatly. By the grace of God, if I become Attorney General, I would seek to introduce these 2, very important, programs to the Ministry of Justice, so that we will have improvement in the quality of training that our legal officers have, and so on and so forth. Again, I would ensure, as part of the reform program, that every ministry and government department has a sitting lawyer within the ministry. A lot of ministries engage in all sorts of contracts, and because they don't have in-house lawyers, the interest of government is more often compromised. Again, by the grace of God, if I have the opportunity of being Attorney General, I will do this, apart from, the car grants. Again, I would ensure 2 specific areas. Number one, the area of court congestion. There's no criminal prosecution where the Minister of Justice is not directly involved. So I would do the needful to ensure that adjournment of cases are drastically reduced. Again, there are prison congestion. This is another area that I would endeavor to evolve policies which will bring about, that. So these are some of the things. I was a member of the Hajj committee, and the question was asked, what reform would I bring about in ensuring that the type of, disaster that occurred in Saudi Arabia, does not occur anymore. We all know very well that Nigeria does not have jurisdiction over Saudi Arabia, over any inch of Saudi land. So there's nothing that I can do, even as a member, because the fault really was that of the Saudi government. It was not the fault of the Nigerian officials. The last issue from our distinguished senator is that of Modakeke. Of course, I was in government then when it happened as a member of the House of Assembly. I don't come from Modakeke. Modakeke is not part of my current state. I didn't have any role to play in the Modakeke crisis. Our distinguished Senator Goje asked a number of questions. You talked of the eve of the election when we, came for screening. One important issue is particularly that we are in the Senate, and particularly that distinguished senators are to be in the vanguard for the sustenance of democracy. Insofar as the constitution of our party did not preclude any member of the party from contesting any election, whether there's an incumbent or not, I think what I merely did was to exercise my right to contest. I knew, and I remember that questions were asked, and I appropriately answered them. So what I've done is in consonance with the ideas of democracy. And I mean, we have at the national level, an incumbent was president of Nigeria, and somebody who virtually came from nowhere defeated him. It was still possible for me to defeat if there was proper primary. But there was no primary, and I tell you why. So, sorry, I want to conclude. Should I stop it? Since the conversation is asking me to stop. So, I did not lose woefully. I want to put it on record. Sorry. As to the question, whether I will contest in future. Thank you.
Was in his mind. Allow him to answer the questions. Yeah. You were talking about your views on judicial reform. I think that was the last. I think you've answered all those questions. Just one more question, then. Senator here, I think, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm Emmanuel Bocha, I represent Taraba South. Barrister Shittu, a careful look at your resume reveals that you are an Islamic scholar.
By the grace of God.
Yes. And at that level, you must be familiar with the activities of the United Nations as it affects propagation of religions worldwide.
Yes, madam.
You must also be familiar with Reverend Moon. Reverend Moon, the elder brother of Ban Ki-moon, who is heading the United Nations Religions Organization. You made an interesting remark that if you'll have your way, you'll be able to recruit religious teachers to come together from different religions. Clearly, you are a student of Reverend Moon. The activity of that department in the UN is to bring all religions together in the world. Is that correct?
No. Well, I can speak for myself.
Okay, now let me learn. Now, Reverend Moon believes that if all religions come together, that they are serving the same God, then there will be peace in the world. What does this portend to the human race generally, as a religious scholar? Particularly in reference to your paper, one of your publications. Now, the part B of this question, what will be your perspective in the war against Boko Haram? That is it a religious extremism? And number 3, is there any ideological difference between the APC and the PDP? Take away General Buhari. Take away General Buhari. Are they not all the same people moving from time to time to one party and the next? This is a question. This is a question. And finally, how do you know that you are an astute debater? Is that your personal opinion? Or people have come to you and expressed this to you and also given you an award? Thank you.
Senator Abukari.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Abubakar Kari, representing Borno North. Mr. Ministerial nominee, I can see from your CV you have had several Islamic publications. one of which is Path to Paradise. My colleague, the Deputy Minority Leader, just asked you a similar question regarding Boko Haram, which is today one of the most pressing issues confronting not even Nigeria, but terrorism worldwide. And part of the ideology that is pushing terror, especially religious terror, is to do with the path to paradise. And I can see you have a publication, even though it was published in 1991, way before the rise of Boko Haram. What would you do as a minister of the Federal Republic, in whatever capacity, in whatever ministry that you find yourself? Because being an authority, I would say, based on your CV, to Islamic affairs, would you do to handle the issue of Boko Haram? Because as we see it, military might alone will not defeat it, because we have seen situations worldwide. I have mentioned before in the past, even the mighty Russian army couldn't defeat insurgency in Chechnya. To an extent, there was a time a Russian general was asked, how come the mighty Russian army couldn't defeat the insurgency? And he replied, he said, how do you defeat an enemy that looks down the barrel of your gun and sees paradise? So we're all talking about ideology, we're talking about path to paradise. And also you have another publication that says, that deals with dawah, which also is one of those tenets that Boko Haram is hinging on. But we also find out that a lot of these Boko Haramis do not even know anything about religion. So what would you do as a minister? What advice would you give in the Federal Executive Cabinet or policy to handle the military action and the other actions that you feel that may give the rise to securing peace in the Northeast and in Nigeria as a whole? Thank you.
Senator Matthew Rugidi.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Matthew Rugidi from Edo. First, let me lend my voice in congratulating the nominee. I have two quick questions for you. Number one, based on the CV that is before us, I think the essence of this hearing is to be able to ascertain your suitability for this position and, of course, the responsibilities that will go with it. Seeing your CV, about 2004 to 2007, you were a member of the Judicial Service Commission of Oyo State. And then, of course, you became the Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice of Oyo in 2007. This period, you were the Chief Law Officer in the state. And I know within this period, one of the very critical happenings in this country, which was the murder of Chief Bola Ige, happened, in Ibadan specifically. Today, that murder is still shrouded in secrecy. Nigerians still do not know what happened. I don't know, you might be sent to Ministry of Justice again, now at national level. You had that responsibility. I don't know whatever happened, whether it is now, judicial system, what you think was wrong, particularly with criminal justice, administration in this country. But because you were involved in it, that same period, you were in the state. And I also know a very prominent politician
Distinguished, you can put the question.
Yes, was killed. So what do you think actually militated against finding out what happened to these distinguished Nigerians that were killed? That's number one. Number two, you have said here with a lot of relish, your followership and membership of the Unity Party of Nigeria, particularly on the personality of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, a distinguished Nigerian too. I have seen too that after that time you were very loud with your membership of the party and involvement in that government. Of course, Bola Igetu was the head of that government in the States. I found too that you became again very prominent when the CPC came on board. So your followership too is built around the person of General Muhammadu Buhari. I want to ask, after the period, you are still saying the very many years, if after 4 years, what you are thinking that the APC under the leadership of Buhari is going to give to Nigerians, I don't know whether there is free education, I don't know whether there is free health, I don't know what is actually in the manifesto of the APC. If in the next 4 years, what do you expect to see that General Buhari will do for Nigerians, just like the UPN under the leadership of Awolowo did for Nigerians? So, as a member of the Federal Executive Council, what are you going to press that will mean enduring legacy and benefit to Nigerians? Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Let's see if you can take this.
Thank you. Okay. Distinguished senators, the first question from distinguished Senator Emmanuel Boacha is about Reverend Moon and all of that. Reverend Moon is not a Muslim, and his standards and worldview about religion are not Islamic. I am a Muslim. My worldview, my aspirations, my goals are in conformity with what Islam teaches. And what does it teach? It teaches freedom of religion. So I will never subscribe. In fact, in the Quran, if I may be permitted to quote, God said, if he wanted all peoples of the world to belong to one religion, he would have created all of them in that same religion. But he decided in his wisdom that people should practice different religions as they wish. So I don't believe in forcing anybody. And we all know also that Islam means a religion of peace. Peace means no intervention, no force, no violence, no compulsion. There's no compulsion in religion. I will come to Boko Haram. About Boko Haram, I must say that a lot of, in the last few years, 2-3 years, I've seen a lot of Nigerians unfairly blaming northern leaders for not speaking against Boko Haram. Of course, we know that anybody who spoke against Boko Haram was killed. A lot of examples. Even a legal advisor in Maiduguri was at a stage killed. So is it a difficult thing for anybody who wants to continue to live to make comments in the public fora about these faceless things, elements? What I want to assure this distinguished Senate is that even if the Boko Haram elements claim to be Muslims, everything they have been doing are un-Islamic. It is an elementary knowledge in Islam that you do not kill a soul unless it has gone through a judicial process and has been found guilty. If the offense for which it has been found guilty merits, death sentence. We know how they operate. We know that all that they do are antithetical to the teachings of Islam. So I want to say, I hope safely, that I don't consider them as Muslims. The people they claim to be Muslim, people they claim to be Christians. If you claim to be a Christian and you still have a Bible that you
consult, you cannot in reality be a Christian. If you claim to be a Muslim and you kill people who have not sinned, who have not offended, even if you think your thinking of being a Muslim is a mere perception. So I want to say with all sense of responsibility that I don't want to comment much because I still have a family to take care of, and I also want to leave.
It's been the wish of the Senate that the nominee, if the nominee can take his leave now, the nominee, take your leave.
Barrister Ibrahim Adebayo Shittu there, bowing to the Senate of the Federal Republic after being taking questions from distinguished senators on varied issues. He described himself as a chief advocate for the strengthening of effective moral and religious training in the educational system, chief advocate for the introduction of cadet type of military training in post-primary institutions, and chairman Human Rights and Public Petitions Committee, Oyo State Legislature in 1980-1981. He is a publisher of several books, including A Modern Introduction to Islam in 1979, Islam and Christianity, Why the Conflict in 1979, Islamic Ideology, Path to Democratic Socialism in Nigeria, also in 1979. He also published a book titled Islam for the Sake of Humanity in 1994. Ibrahim Adebayo Shittu was former Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Oyo State. He was also a gubernatorial candidate for the CPC in Oyo State. The two remaining ministerial nominees are slated for this Tuesday, the 20th of October 2015, include Claudius Omoleye Daramola and Khadija Abba Ibrahim. Any of the two nominees will be ushered into the Senate chambers any moment from now, and we expect the senators to fire their questions to them, and we expect responses from the nominees. Much earlier, the chairman Senate Ad hoc Committee on Media and Publicity, Senator Dino Melaye, had explained to NTA that to be considered. Barrister Adebayo Shittu had been considered, and only Claudius Omoleye Daramola and Khadija Abba Ibrahim will be considered any moment from now. Khadija Abba The two ministerial nominees being expected are, once again, Claudius Daramola Omole. He's an educationist, professor of sociology of education. He's a native of Ode-Aye in Okitipupa local government area of Ondo State. Professor Daramola was educated at Divisional Teacher Training College, University, and the University of Sokoto, now Osman Danfodio University. It appears Khadija Abba Ibrahim is the nominee been brought into the Senate of the Federal Republic. Khadija Bukar Abba Ibrahim is a third-term member of the House of Representatives. She is the wife of the first civilian governor of Yobe State, Senator Bukar Abba Ibrahim. Her father is the late Ibrahim Waziri Ibrahim, the proponent of politics without bitterness, and former presidential aspirant in the Second Republic, and founder of the Great Nigeria People's Party, GMPP. Khadija Bukar Abba Ibrahim is a serving member of the Federal House of Representatives until her nomination as ministerial nominee for Yobe State. She may likely enjoy the camaraderie and the tradition of the Senate, being a serving member of the House of Representatives. But we would love to see that. Senator Bukar Abba, the husband to the nominee, Khadija Bukar Abba Ibrahim. This is her third term in the House of Representatives. She was a former First Lady in Yobe State and now a ministerial nominee.
Is Khadija Bukar Abba Ibrahim, the House who was House of Rep 6 and 7, who is an affiliate member of the 8th Senate, affiliate member of the Governors Forum. You're welcome. We've all got your CV. We've gone through it. If there's anything you want to tell us that is not there, or there's anything left out, or anything you want to emphasize, you can just spend a few words just to tell us about yourself.
Your Excellency, the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, the Deputy Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, distinguished principal officers of the Senate, distinguished senators, may I take this opportunity to recognize the 3 senators from Yobe State, namely Senator Bukar Abba Ibrahim, Senator Ahmed Ibrahim Lawal, and Senator Muhammad Hassan. I give thanks to the Almighty Allah for making it possible to stand here before you today in this hallowed chamber as a ministerial nominee. My name is Honorable Khadija Bukar Abba Ibrahim, a serving third-term member of the Federal House of Representatives, representing Damaturu, Tarmua, Gujiba, Gulani Federal Constituency of Yobe State. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I come from a political family where great emphasis is placed on integrity in leadership, service to the people, good morals, and strong family values. Born into the family of the late Alhaji Wazir Ibrahim, of blessed memory, the apostle of politics without bitterness, granddaughter of the late Sakashim Ibrahim, first governor of the northern region, and married to Senator Bukar Abba Ibrahim, three-time governor of Yobe State, and presently a serving third-time senator of Yobe State. I started my primary education in Kaduna Capital School, then proceeded to Queen's College, Lagos, after which I continued my secondary education in Headington School, Oxford, United Kingdom, where I gained my O-levels. I proceeded to Padworth College, Reading, in the United Kingdom, where I obtained a national diploma in business and finance. I proceeded to the Roehampton Institute for Higher Education, affiliated with the University of Surrey, England, where I gained a BSc in business studies and sociology. I have worked both in the private and public sectors. My last appointment before joining active politics was as a commissioner for transport and energy in Yobe State. As a commissioner, I was saddled with the responsibility of providing an effective transportation network for the state. Under my stewardship, there was a vast improvement in the inter and intra-transport system of the state. Transportation was not only made available, but also affordable to the teeming populace. I was also involved in provision of rural electrification in all the 17 local government areas of Yobe State. I contested and won elections into the Federal House of Representatives in 2007. During my sojourn in the House of Representatives, I held several positions, such as the Chairman, Deputy Chairman, Rural Development, Deputy Chairman, Commercialization, and Chairman, House Committee on Privatization and Commercialization. As Chairman of the House Committee on Privatization and Commercialization, we conducted oversight functions on public enterprises privatized by the National Council on Privatization, NCP, and the Bureau for Public Enterprises, BPE, in various sectors such as power, i.e. generation companies, and distribution companies and the ports, i.e. One, Port Harcourt, Warri in the eastern ports, Apapa and Tinkan Island in the western ports. In the course of our post-privatization monitoring and oversight, we visited several facilities, such as Lagos International Trade Fair Complex and Tafa Balewa Square, Lagos, Aluminium Smelter Company, Alstom, Oleme Petrochemicals Company Limited, on a river state, Sheraton Hotels and Towers, Abuja, Transcorp Hilton, Abuja, Niger Dock PLC, Snake Island, Lagos, and Notori, formerly known as NAFCON, to mention but a few. The outcome of these oversights led us to the creation of the Post-Privatization Monitoring Fund subhead in the budget of the BPE. We also conducted public and investigative hearings on the NITEL-MTEL guided liquidation, privatization transactions, Ajakuta Steel, Apapa Container Terminal, Lagos International Trade Fair, and Alstom, etc. On lawmaking under my watch, we considered and reviewed the transport sector and other reform bills presently before the National Assembly. 1, Transport Commission Bill 2015, 2, Port and Harbour Bill 2015, 3, Road Funds Bill 2015, 4, Road Sector Reform Bill 2015, 5, Inland Waterways Bill 2015, 6, Competition Bill 2015, 7, Postal Services Bill 2015, and 8, the Nigeria Railroad Bill 2015. These bills, when passed into law, will create jobs and attract private sector investments. Mr. President, an effective relationship between the legislature and the executive, I believe, is an essential ingredient in enactment of laws that will create the requisite legal and regulatory framework for smooth operations as well as complement efforts of government. Mr. President, distinguished senators, to improve a better working relationship between the executive and the legislature, there is need to expedite action on resolutions of the National Assembly on investigative hearings and public hearings, quick passage of the budget, and ascension of bills into law by the executive. Mr. President, distinguished senators, since my nomination, I've been approached by a lot of people seeking to know why I'd abandon the mandate given to me by my people to serve in the executive arm of government. The answer is very clear. My decision to seek and be elected member Federal House of Representatives was predicated on the zeal to represent the good people of my constituency. Over the years, I have availed myself to contribute to the emergence of a new and better Nigeria of our dream. Through the development of sustainable legislation, such legislation that will bring about positive change to governance.
Your CV and your 2 points I want to make. One, the second question will depend on how well you answer the first question. I will take the first question. I will pick a senator that will ask you the first question. Honorable Booker Ibrahim. Being a three-term senator, well experienced here, I think they are best fit to the question.
Mr. President, sir, distinguished colleagues, my ever-loving wife, Minister Khadija Bukaraba Ibrahim, how will you react if by virtue of what we have in your CV and the additional information you gave us, and an additional information I'm going to give, because all the 3 elections you had, nobody ever took you to the tribunal. How will you react if you are asked to just bow and go?
colleague, is it the wish of the Senate that the nominee should take a leave?
Order!
I want to put the question, is it the wish of the Senate that the nominee should take a leave and go?
We predicted it after her formal introduction of herself. Honorable Khadija Bakar Abba Ibrahim is taking a bow and leaving the Senate. We take it that the Senate, in its wisdom, will confirm her nomination as ministerial nominee of the Federal Republic. Khadija Bakar Abba Ibrahim, a third-term member of the House of Representatives, and described
Order!
the Senate leader and the minority leader have moved and a motion for the Senate president, this time in a committee of the whole, to now revert back to the Senate plenary, where the Senate president will be expected to report progress of what transpired in the committee of the whole.
Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Federation, for the confirmation of nominees for appointment as ministers of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The following nominees answered questions from distinguished senators on a number of topical national issues and their CV. Barrister Adebayo Shittu and Khadija Abba Ibrahim. Further confirmation hearings on the other nominees deferred to next legislative day. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Okay. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, having concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that this Senate do stand adjourned till Wednesday, 21st October at 10 a.m. prompt.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that having concluded today's proceedings, this Senate do adjourn till Wednesday, 21st October at 10 a.m.
Distinguished colleagues, before I put the question, just two quick announcements. A letter from Coordinator Senate for the Christian Legislators Fellowship International. National prayer breakfast. The Christian Legislature Fellowship International wish to remind all senators of our annual national prayer breakfast holding as follows. 22nd of October 2015, Thursday, 7 a.m. at this day dome. All senators are cordially invited. Another announcement, special request, announcement by Senator Boacha, based on the concern that the attendance might be low. I hereby request the Senate President to please repeat the earlier announcement that there will be a caucus of one of the parties, PDP, after plenary at hearing room 1. So please note it. Those in favor that the Senate is hereby adjourned till Wednesday, 21st October 2015 at 10 a.m. say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate is hereby adjourned till Wednesday, 21st October 2015 at 10 a.m.